Welcome everyone. I'm Wake, your host for Shaman to Shaman, where we bring you interviews, shaman to shaman, healer to healer, teacher to teacher, with shamanic earth-based healers and teachers from around the world. Today, we've invited Roger Wheelock, who lives and practices in Asheville, North Carolina, to share some of his stories of a shamanic life and to tell us about his passions, his practice, and his way in the world. Roger calls himself a ceremonialist and community shaman. He is a very modest practitioner who does not engage virtually with clients, but has a deep personal practice of healing, offers ceremonies, and is especially dedicated to the Asheville shamanic community. Hello, Roger. Welcome to Shaman to Shaman.
Hi, Wake, and thanks for having me on. I'm proud to be a member of the Shaman Directory and the work you folks were all doing around the world is an inspiration to me, and it restores my passion in times when things seem a little rough. So I'm glad to be here, and I hope I have a little bit that people can take away from what I have to say today. So thank you very much for bringing me on.
You're welcome, Roger, and you're an important part of the community, and we'd like to get to know you better. Let me tell the folks just a little bit about you so they can get some background, and then we'll continue our discussion.
Sure.
Roger Wheelock was born in a small farming community in America's heartland in Illinois. Roger grew up embraced by nature, climbing trees and wandering through meadows. The red-winged blackbird became his childhood power animal. Roger was raised in a Christian home where he learned that Jesus is love, and he carries this message in his heart today. At 18, Roger began exploring different spiritual paths, beginning with transcendental meditation. In midlife, he discovered Joseph Campbell, who showed that all religious traditions incorporate similar myths. Since then, Roger's life has become a diverse spiritual journey of various traditions and practices. Around 2010, he became interested in shamanism through the work of Alberto Villoldo, with special appreciation of the life recapitulation process, which he'll tell us about in our discussion. Roger trained in the practices of the Four Winds and became an active shamanic practitioner in 2012. At that time, Roger met Wilbert Salas Atasi, who I know as well, and Don Mariano Quispe Flores, who both solidified Roger's shamanic foundation in the traditions of the paqos of the high Andes of Peru. In 2018, Roger completed the Pachacuti Mesa Foundational Apprenticeship with Don Osco Miro Casada. He also studied traditions of the Peruvian North Coast healers. Today, Roger stands in service to his community as he walks the beauty way on the path of the heart. We hope that the stories Roger shares today will resonate with you and impact your life in a meaningful way. As with all Shamans Directory offerings, that you will be inspired to add shamanic wisdom and healing sessions to your life and be drawn to spiritual community and sense and know their benefits. Shaman to Shaman is brought to you by Shamans Directory, a dynamic online resource for earth-based shamans to share themselves, offer medicine, build community, and change the world. To learn more, you can visit online at Shamans Directory, on the YouTube channel, and through Instagram. Today, then, I am truly honored to welcome Roger Wheelock to introduce himself to our Shamans Directory community. Roger, how would you like to begin? I've got plenty of questions, but I thought I'd give you the floor.
Yeah, well, first I'd like to honor all my teachers, the Peruvian teachers, the Pacos that have crossed my path. I would particularly like to honor Mama Irene. woman who's a paqo in Cusco now, and she is training other women to follow the tradition. And it's been a difficult path for her because she's had to learn much on her own. Uh, Even though we think shamanism is an open path for all, it can be a little patriarchal. So I honor Mama Irene and the way she's bringing her medicine to the women of Peru. And I also honor Wilbur Salasatasi. He's a good friend. He stayed in our home. He's a level-headed guy. We brought him up during the pandemic, and he did ceremony here. And then it was the weirdest thing. He had to get back to Peru, so we had to end the ceremonial weekend a day early, and I had to drive him down to the Atlanta airport. And because of clamping down on the borders for COVID, he made it in just before midnight so he could return to Cusco and his home. So thank you, Wilbert. You're an inspiration to me. Yeah.
It makes
Uh,
such a difference, doesn't it, Roger, to meet the lineage holders, to
yeah.
meet the Pacos of the Andes. And I know you've taken several trips down to Peru. And does anything strike you in particular about your in-person journeys to meet the Pacos and to be on the land?
Well, the land's very sacred, and the nature spirits, particularly of the mountains, are so alive. The Apagia of the sacred Apus, they're so close to you, and you can connect to them very directly and learn their wisdom. The most beautiful blessing is that the Quechua and the Caro people seem so happy compared to us Westerners that are always worried about something or thinking, this bad thing's or that bad thing's going to happen. And yet they live life simply with that concept of Aini, sacred reciprocity, where it's a complex term. It's in some ways it's today for you, tomorrow for me, but in connection with Mother Earth, it's never take more than you need and always give more back than you need to give back. So that's what they've taught me, the simpler way of life and the value of not expecting to be given something without giving something in advance without expectation. I hope that explains Aini kind of simply. It's a complex term, and not all the Quechua words translate very well into English.
Well, certainly, Roger, you've explained it well. It's a sacred reciprocity of having balance in all things, including relationships with each other and ourselves and the natural world. You've learned this and so many other aspects of the Carroll lineage. One thing I wanted to pursue with you, if I could, is some of your early interest in Alberto's work and the study of the recapitulation process. I understand that was quite important personally for you. Could you
Yeah,
explain that?
yeah, I'd be happy to. I first read it in one of Alberto's books, and I thought this would be helpful with my mother. My mother had a very difficult life. I'll keep the story as short as I can. She was very, very smart, I guess. She grew up during the Great Depression when people didn't have much of anything. Uh, but her family was well educated. Uh, and as she was around 10 or 11, uh, her uncle had saved up enough money to send her to college, even when nobody had any money during that time. And what happened then was her mother died young. Unfortunately, my mother was there by accident to watch her mother die in the hospital. And then her father immediately got remarried, and the stepmother demanded that all of the six children leave the household, and they got my mother and her two sisters and three brothers got sent away to other relatives, and they never saw their father again. The father then essentially stole the college money from my mother to pay for the medical bills, and my mother not never got to achieve the education she deserved. And that was a pretty heavy trauma for her. Uh, she had a series of other difficult events in her life. My sister and brother died fairly young in middle age, and she's witnessed this series of deaths and tragedy. And I realized when she told me that when she died, she had a few hard questions to ask God, that maybe the recapitulation process would help her. So I spent about a year and a half, and it happened slowly. And we talked about all these events in her life. Sometimes she could talk about them a little bit, sometimes she could talk about them a little more. And what turned out from it was a beautiful thing that every time she had a tragedy in her life, she came back vibrantly and did some sort of good work in the community or did some good work in some charity for someone else. And she never recognized this beautiful side of her life that had occurred coming out of the tragedy. So over this period of a year and a half, we went through a lot of stuff, I'll tell you that. And uh, it still is an important place in my heart. And in the end, uh, she passed cleanly. She had a little room in a care facility, and the sunlight came beaming on her face as she made the transition, and it was all worthwhile. And uh, my advice from that is being a good daughter or a good son to your parents makes all the difference in the world. That's the little piece of wisdom I have there.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that very personal story, Roger. And I believe that it was shamanism then and the teachings that you learned there to review a person's life with them and
Yeah.
give them true listening of and reframing of certain
Mhm.
aspects. So that's one thing I like about you, Roger, is your practical application of the work.
Thank you. Yeah. I
I'd
try to be down to earth.
Well, there are many interesting things to ask you about, but I want to know. Well, here you were so interesting to me in that you aren't interested in having a big practice necessarily, but a very personal practice and a very strong community involvement. Could you tell us about the evolution of your practice to where you are now?
Yeah, I'd like to explain a little bit about that. And I, when I first became a shamanic practitioner, I was all about having many clients and doing marketing, which I believe is important. It's important. I don't downplay that at all. I, but the work I began doing as I had more people come to me seemed less personal, and it lacked a contact of continuity, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Maybe I just wasn't a good marketer. You never know. It could have been that. So let's be honest, and we'll hold the mirror up to my face. Um, so now the things have changed over time, and I've become coming from a more relaxed place in life, and I have reached out to a community here in Asheville that may not be reached commonly by most practitioners. I'm trying to reach the LBQT, I'm sorry if I got the initials wrong, community and communities of color. And I'm trying to do that in an affordable way. I'm trying to reach younger people. I have two apprentices that I'm working with informally, two young men in their 30s. But I'm trying to work through community and meet a group of people that are different from me. The value in that experience is they all teach me something during each session. It's the what I heal in them or how I allow them to move on in a more positive path is deeply reinforced by what these people teach me when they sit at the mesa with me. So it's another act of Ini, sacred reciprocity and continuing to grow the community. So I'm community shaman. I keep my rates as affordable as I can. I have an office and you have to pay the rent and everything, but it's worked out well for me.
I think, Roger, that a lot of people equate shamanism with service of some kind. Could you speak to the call to service within you?
Yeah, the call to service, uh, in my bio, I think what calls me to service is walking the beauty way on the path of the heart. I've gotten out of my head more, and I'm doing my best to think with my heart. It's a little bit difficult during these times of chaos and crises, but uh, the advantage that I've had all along and that allows me to affirm a path of service is even when people have had trauma and very rough times, when we do a shamanic session, I can see that spark of beauty within them, and I can pull them closer towards the light within themselves and away from whatever darkness is holding them back. And when we work in community here in ceremony, it's a real blessing. We always have some sort of sharing time, and we have a message. We overlay the message with some traditions of the paqos of Peru, whether it's a despacho ceremony or one of the other ceremonies that we do, but we open people up and we create a sacred vessel, and that's part of the service. And then it's not me talking to them about their spirituality. It's creating, in a way, a portal where spirit can speak to them directly during the ceremony. And that's been immensely valuable. It's people are lifted up. They don't look at me as some, I don't know, some big wise person that's teaching them anything, but the message comes through to them either through a session or the ceremony about how they have value and how their lives could be adjusted a little bit to make a real difference in the world.
Well, Roger, to me, you're a facilitator and even more importantly, a convener. That you believe so much in community that you want people to get together. And fortunately, you have a strong shamanic community in Asheville, and you're enhancing it. So, what about community? What's the value here?
Well, the value to community in this day is that it's been lost through isolation, I think. And uh, First, the screen time, and here we are on the screen putting a message through, which I feel is valuable. But the fact that people are always looking to their computer or their phone and they're on a group or community in a social messaging service is okay, but it doesn't bring the value of being face to face in a group of people where you can all recognize your common humanity. Uh, the That's been complicated. One, we've had COVID. Boy, that was a real get-together buster for everybody. Kept people from getting together in celebration and joy. Then we've had a series of other disruptions. Here in Asheville, we had Hurricane Helene that brought real damage to the community. And in that way, that actually sparked this big, huge weather catastrophe, sparked little groups of community getting together. Uh, but those fade and those go away. And through our ceremonies, we establish a semi-regular group of community. It's open to anybody in Asheville. It's not like we're trying to limit it to anyone, but people show up and people come and speak their wisdom and their truth, and they get their medicine from the ceremony. And then after a while, they may move away and other people may come to the ceremony. So it's an evolving process. But the key element is that we're all connected with the heart and we're not thinking with the brain anymore, and we relax into spirit. And that's when the magic begins, when spirit comes into the room.
Well, Roger, when you gather people together in ceremony, is it primarily around a shared fire, or do you do different forms of ceremony? Just give us some ideas of some ceremonial gatherings.
Okay, I'd be happy to speak a little bit about that. And first, let me explain that my wife, Gail Ruth Mayer, is also a shamanic practitioner, and we are co-ceremonialists. And she's the beautiful, beaming one, and I'm the old, grumpy shaman one. And somehow we have this balance, but we work the ceremony together, and it's been a real blessing of my heart. So thank you, Gail. Yeah, yeah. When we develop a ceremony, we usually start 2 weeks in advance because we need to send out an invitation to the community. Uh, so in our home, we have a mesa room where we both have our mesas, and usually we sit in there daily. Uh, and when we're thinking of a new ceremony, we ask the mesa to give us some sort of inspiration or some idea for it. And between one or the other of us, it comes through. And then we start the ceremonial process of development. That is one where we think about what's needed, what the space needs, what the energy is, what the medicine that we're actually trying to work during the ceremony is. And that's a process of about probably another week or uh, after that, we've got things pretty clear about what our intention is and what the direction is. And then there's a period of preparation. We send out some instructions through an email to everybody that's decided to come so they would know a little bit about what to expect. Before the ceremony starts, we come over and set the space, consecrate the space, open it up, connect it with nature. I'm fortunate here that my office is in a community space, and we do our ceremonies right downstairs, so it's easy. Uh, and then we ask spirit to hear the call. People show up, we center, and the ceremony begins. The two types of ceremonies that we've been doing primarily are a despacho ceremony, which is well recognized. It's so common in Peru by the paqos in a tradition. At the shaman's market in Cusco, you buy these packages for despachos. Will's been kind enough to send those up whenever we need him. And Wilbur sat with us through Zoom and explained what each of those little packets are. You know, usually there's 30 or 40 of these in a despacho thing, and we do pretty good at those, but we use natural elements here when we do a despacho ceremony. So we go out and gather ingredients from the Blue Ridge Mountains, from our backyard, or out in the forest or whatever, as well as some common despacho items that we use. And then we fold them up into little packets so that each person will be able to open one of these during the ceremony. Uh, so to go into a little more detail about the despacho ceremony, we ask that uh, we've done despacho ceremonies for our ancestors, for example, and we ask people to bring a little picture or something related to their ancestor that they find value in. And at the beginning of the despacho ceremony, after a layer of flowers and various things have been laid on the paper, uh, each person comes up and speaks, well, they would have spoken to their ancestor then and place some of their own energy into the despacho. That's really important. It gives people a voice and it gives people active role in the ceremony. That's one thing that we believe is important, that each person there, if they choose, some people don't want to have the light shine on them to walk up, but usually everybody brings something and they add to the energy of the despacho. Then we have these packets, and Gail passes the bowl around. Everybody opens up their packet and they sprinkle it on, and they make it beautiful, and then we complete it with some more flowers and add more beauty to it. And then we fold it up. Usually Gail takes the despacho bundle. It's about this big and this wide. I didn't bring enough pictures to show here, but uh, it's a love offering to the spirits. So then I've gone out and I built the fire for the burning of the despacho, and then Gail uh, uses the despacho bundle and does a limpy cleansing of negative energy of people. And then we release the despacho into the fire, and spirit takes the message to the highest levels. It's a beautiful thing. Uh, People are moved, but the key point I want to make is that it's a participative experience for the ceremonialists where they bring some of their self to the despacho.
Let me ask you here, Roger, before you go on to the second form, and that is, what impact do you find a gift bundle like this, a love offering, as you say, to the community and individually? What have you noticed in gathering people together to share a ceremony like this? What impact does it have?
They walk out the door with a different view about their current situation in life. The energy they carry with them affects them and the people around them. They make, and I've had personal feedback about that, is that they make different choices and decisions that result in a more positive way of living their life, regardless of what their individual condition is. So the fact that somehow their energy shifted to a point where they can make choices that they wouldn't have made before. Maybe they're a little uncomfortable, but they pay off in their lives in many beautiful ways. And then that just spreads around the community. If you run into somebody that's upbeat and making good choices, then you think, wow, this person's pretty good. And then maybe I ought to go out and do some of this too. And that's how it ripples through the community.
And the very fact of gathering together, do you notice a difference?
Yeah. I would like to go back a little bit and uh, uh, talk about voice here. People have, in a way, lost their voice. And COVID's the classic one with the masks and staying at home. Now, the people that struggle the most seem to have lost their voice even more in these current times. So the fact that you can sit into community and have a time when you can express yourself in an honest and true way and not have it judged and know that it doesn't go beyond the ceremony uh, is something that's valuable for each and every human being. I think the chance to express ourselves in front of others and with a common open heart that are actually listening. And one of the advantages is we've learned through community that listening's more important than worrying about what you're going to say when it's your turn to share. So that's become a valuable thing, that people get listened to and people have chance to express their voice. It's really quite empowering.
Well, Roger, you have brought up the issue of loss of voice. You also mentioned loss of imagination and loss of connection. So I can see how the gathering together would bring back connection. And
Right.
and we've just heard about how the voice is encouraged and respected, listened to.
Mhm.
What about imagination? What impact does getting together have on imagination?
Let me explain that in terms of the other type of ceremony that we've kind of locked into. Maybe that'll bring it around fairly clearly. Uh, we do these things called co-creative shamanic crystal grid ceremonies. That sounds pretty woo-hoo stuff. and uh, and it has a connection to the paqos and their mesa and their stone kuyas. I'm a crystal keeper and I've worked with the stones for a long time. Uh, so during the crystal grid ceremonies, we send out a call to people that allows them to imagine what they would be like given these energies. A common one, we did a series for a crystal grid series for uh, Yankai Munai and Yachai, energy, love, and wisdom. And in each one of those, people were called upon before the ceremony to imagine what they would feel like if they were fully energized and fully activated with the Yankai, and if they were harmoniously, fully expressing love and Munai for the second one, and then if they were allowing wisdom to flow through them for the third one. And that allowed them to be creative in their responses when they came to the sharing time during the crystal grid. Uh, One key point I'd make here is this is a somewhat bending of the Andean tradition of the paqos, but it's tied to the kuyas, and it's tied to always a Caro term that has value to establish that connection. So they come in and they've expanded their imagination through thinking, and then the beauty of it, the ceremony's conducted. Uh, we have 3 rounds of placing crystals on the grid, and everybody places their stones on, and then we put candles on them and illuminate the grid. And then through the candle fire, we release that energy to the world. But the beauty of it is people's imagination has been sparked and they can go out and take new ideas, see them, new opportunities, new possibilities, and take them out into the world. Uh, the dilemma of modern society is the loss of imagination. We've got the same old problems, except magnified to a higher level, and we're using the same old solutions to try and fix them. And it ain't working out very well, as we may have noticed in the world. Uh, So by restoring imagination and community, it's just a seed being planted that can be taken out and allow people to think about things differently. And it ties into the technique of divination that I use also. It's my divination technique. I've been trained in the Caro technique of coca leaf divination, but that it's very hard to get coca leaves up here and do that for them. So I use another form using small stones, but still a divination cloth and that type of thing. And in a divination session with a client, people come to me with a this or that question. Should I take this job or should I not take this job or should I uh, uh, go through a difficult process or not and continue living the way I do? And what comes out through the divination, it's a process where I do a reading where things are at now, where things would go through during a shift to becoming something new, and how they would turn out after they'd become the new situation. What comes up during those sessions um, is that it's not a yes or no decision. There's other possibilities out there. It may be yes and no. It may be this third possibility or a fourth or a fifth possibility that could be applied to the situation. And that's been very valuable to clients. They can then uh, go out and look for new choices and decisions to make about the issue that they've come to for me for the divination. And the feedback on that has been very positive on the other side, that they found that there's a third way or a fourth way after they tried something that worked out more beautifully than just slamming the door on something and walking away or taking a big risk and having it fall through. So that's the power of imagination coming through in a shamanic practice to illuminate it in the client to allow them to improve their life. And that's been valuable.
Roger, let's revisit your connection to the lineage for a moment. And we've been talking a little bit about Wilbert Salas Atasi, who is a keeper of the Andean ways. Could you offer some teachings or lessons that perhaps have been especially impactful to you that Wilbert has offered?
Yeah, Wilbert's the most balanced guy I've ever seen, and it's I've seen him in difficult situations and impossible uh, things that I would have felt really deeply affected by, and he has stayed in balance throughout the whole process. The lesson in that he's taught me through his living of his life is to walk the middle path, the middle ground, and not get way too excited when things are going great and not get way too depressed when things are going really poorly, but just to stay in balance. He's also taught me the value of humor, and he's taught me that even in the most difficult situations, if you just change your way of looking at it, you can find that the whole thing is uh, amusing, or there's some aspect of it that is, it makes you wonder about yourself for wrapping you up so tightly around the problem. Uh, so one of the advantages that he's brought to me is he has a very gentle way of holding a shamanic mirror up to my face that I can look into. And then he doesn't tell me what I need to work on, but that I see what I need to work on. And uh, then I go, oh, okay, and I move on and make the changes in my life, and it's just been a sense of that brings me back into balance. It's uh, a beautiful thing. Uh, the sense of looking into that mirror is something that I think is really important if you're a shamanic practitioner. And I'd like to speak just a little bit about that. Many traditions that or trainings in the Peruvian way talk about experiencing a shamanic death, and where you die to yourself and then the shaman's reborn within you. And I understand that practice. Uh, and I've experienced in my own way a true shamanic death. But I've learned that the practice of the shaman is going through these many shamanic deaths and then learning the lesson that you're supposed to learn from that and then moving on and becoming a more powerful shamanic practitioner. Uh, and that's what I would call looking into the mirror, the shamanic mirror that reflects back to you who you are as a true human being. A lot of this has allowed me to humble my ego, hopefully, as a shamanic practitioner. Every time I think I'm doing something really powerful and good, then I look into that mirror and I'm humbled in some way, and then I fix something in myself, and then my next client comes along and I do a better job for him or her in the session. And that is a deeply healing process. I don't know if it has value for others in the community, but it's had a personal value for me. And that's what Wilbert's been good at. He's kind of slyly held up that shamanic mirror for me to look into. And then I've found ways to improve myself and help myself out along my path.
Roger, when you speak of the impact that Wilbert has had on your life, I get a sense, and on your practice, I get a sense that this is a living relationship. And I know some people on the spiritual path have had teachers and move on from them and seek others. The sense I get from your relationship with Wilbert is it's a living relationship. It's
Yeah.
alive in you right now. Um, is that true for you? And could you speak to the value of a living relationship with a teacher?
Well, and I think it has deep value and it's accumulated over time and it's accumulated by listening very carefully. Some of the teachings are subtle in ways that with a Western mind that's always going like that would slip by. So the living path is Wilbert's been here and he stayed in our home a couple times and we sit out in the backyard and we listen to the birds and stuff. And then the relationship becomes more real. It's like it's a three-way relationship, a connection between spirit, the teacher, and the student. And that's when it deepens. And I know that's difficult to have with uh, a specific teacher, many teachers. Wilbert's busy, he's busy all the time. But once that connection has been established initially, then it grows over time. So I don't have to check in with Wilbert every Saturday and say, how you doing and what happened with you, brother? I can check in now and then, or he comes and checks in now or then if something that happened that's important that we know each other should hear about. Then we communicate with each other and we get into a depth of teaching and sharing and understanding that's important. It's a gift beyond friendship, I guess. Friends, good friends, they don't have to get together every day. They can get together 3 months later or even a year later, and it's like they never left off with each other. They're just the same as they were, but the connection here with this relationship with the teacher is that there's a third energy involved, the energy of spirit, and that's what allows the teaching to expand and grow and become a really beautiful thing over a long period of time. That would be the powerful medicine is all I can say it is.
I feel like you being Roger and Wilbert at the same time.
Oh, Wilbert, man. So I talked about having to haul him down to Atlanta to get him on the last flight out to Lima, or he wouldn't be able to go back home. And he's just sitting over there and he tells me some story. I'm like driving like crazy to get to the airport. And he's telling me this story about he thinks pretty soon we're going to have flying cars and that we'll be able to fly down to the airport. And he's seeing some pictures on the internet about people already trying that and they're making some pretty good progress. And I'm going, like that. And he got me to calm right down and we made it in plenty of time. And yeah, yeah. So he's a little bit of a comedian and a trickster too. So
Let's speak for a moment, if you will, Roger, to the value of the mesa, because I know the mesa, or the medicine bundle, is quite important in the Andean tradition. What do you find as being the benefit or the living relationship you have with your mesa?
the my relationship with the Mesa deepens with time. It's and I rarely miss a day I don't sit with my mesa for a half an hour or 45 minutes. Often that's a time that I incorporate shamanic journeying and I'm throwing a question out to my power animals, but it seems more and more that I'm just throwing the question out to the mesa and the mesa speaks to me directly. In my healing practice, I've developed a very personal relationship with each of the kuyas, the sacred stones. That's deepened over the years. Uh, I know what medicine they're carrying and how it relates to a client. Uh, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have known that at all. So what's happened to me is that the Mesa speaks deeply to me, and it speaks the language of the heart. It doesn't speak the monkey mind business. And it provides wisdom. I guess it's the yachai, the energy that comes in from above. If I'm having a difficult day in a relationship or a conflict with someone, then I can put that to the mesa, and the mesa sometimes gives me a sense of a healing energy coming back, and sometimes gives me a sense of a direction I should take with this situation or not. But these, it's beyond my imagination. Something's coming through the mesa where spirit talks directly to me and helps me in my life and how to live it. It's taken time. It's taken time and it's taken practice. I can't underestimate the value of a daily practice with your mesa, even if it's only for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It establishes a relationship. It establishes a relationship with the Kuyas. It establishes a connection with the paqos of Peru. I can't explain how it all works, but and any spiritual tradition takes a daily practice to have it developed. So this is just mine and it works for me, and it's a beautiful and powerful experience.
Thank you for that, Roger. And I know you have an offering that you'd like to make. And just before you do that, I wonder if we could revisit community. And for those who are listening and watching you, uh, who have a spiritual community in their own homes, home locations, or want to build it. What are some aspects of building and nurturing spiritual community? What have you and Gail found to be most helpful to keep this spirit and this gathering sense alive?
I think the first thing is if you're building community, you have to take some risks. You have to know that you're going to have to try some things, and not all of them are going to work out. And you've got to keep on trying if you actually want to build a community. You have to be open to inviting people that are a little different from you, and that can be a risk-taking ceremony in itself. They may show up, they may not show up, but it's part of opening it up, an open invitation. And then you have to, when people respond to the call, I guess is what I would say, the invitation to community, you have to listen to them carefully as they come in and what they have to say, what their values are, and what their concerns are. I'm talking endlessly here, it seems like during this interview, but part of building community is becoming an excellent listener and waiting to respond and letting people know that they're valued. The thing that carries community through for me and for Gail, my partner as a co-ceremonialist, is we can both see the very best in people. Each person whose path we cross, no matter how difficult, we can see a spark of their beauty within them. Uh, Gail's a beamer. She can directly beam and get that spark brighter, and I can see it and encourage it. And that's what builds community, when people connect their sparks of beauty, and then it all starts to gel. Everybody has value. Everybody particularly has value in this time of chaos and crises. Everybody makes a difference. It's time to not worry about fixing ourselves, but just to get out there and do what our inner magic is in these days, because it's all going to make a difference. And I'm proud of every member, of anybody that's shown up for any one of our ceremonies, and it brings me joy, and I think that joy spreads out into the world.
Well, I think you provide a very magnetic presence, and anyone in the Asheville, North Carolina area, I'm sure will be drawn to you and look forward to participating in a ceremony. I know before our time is complete for today, you have a story or an offering. I'd like to you to present that if you would.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Last night we did a ceremony for the Nustas, the nature spirits, and I tell you, they're alive here in the Blue Ridge Mountains here in Western North Carolina right now. And everybody brought their, it was an uplifting ceremony. Everybody brought how they connected to a tree or the birds or the butterflies or whatever, and it brought a real sacred value to the connection that we all live in a beautiful spot in nature. Nature's around us to support us, and nature's here to keep us alive and the love flowing. But what was really a lesson in life from that is Gail and I went camping last weekend to tune in to the nature spirits, be a little more authentic. And we were out by a creek, Bend Creek, and we were sitting down by the bank and just watching the sunlight glitter off the water flowing over the stones and listening to the wind going down. And we were pretty much in the zone. And then uh, a father and his young daughter showed up beside us, and the young girl was about four or so, but she was just a spark of beauty and a spark of light. And she immediately rolled up her pant legs and was ready to get into the water. And she goes to Gail and I, have you ever seen a newt? And we go, no, we haven't. And her father's kind of smiling over there, and she says, "Well, here, I'll catch a newt for you." And so she goes into a little calm space along the side of the stream, and she comes up and she's just reaching around in there and she pulls up this beautiful newt, a classic example of a Noosa, a nature spirit. And she lets each of us hold this newt, and uh, we got the energy through her and through the newt and into us for our ceremony. But the magic that really came through is the children are alive. The children are alive with this sense of nature, and they've got the potential to make a difference in this world. And this beautiful father that's allowing his child to be out there and exploring nature at that level is part of what makes a difference in the world. So we found the Newt Nusta energy through the sparkle of this little 4-year-old girl on the banks of Bend Creek this weekend. It was a beautiful experience.
That's a very stunning story. I appreciate your sharing.
Yeah, yeah.
And Roger, at the very beginning, you mentioned the value of Shamans Directory. I know that you are committed to community locally. Could you speak just a little bit more about the value of the global shamanic community and your participation in it?
Well, and I believe the work Shamans Directory is doing is valuable, important. It's linking the world. In Peru, they call this the Pachacuti, the world reversal. And if we energy medicine people, regardless of what tradition, indigenous tradition that we follow, if we're bringing that to the light during this time, then we're creating like a global network of light circulating around the world to help heal it, to help move us from this time of difficulty and move us into a day where people value each other and people care for each other and people take less than they need and give back more than they have to. And that's what Shamans Directory is doing, I think, worldwide. Yeah, go.
Thank you, Roger. And you, as you know, are an important part of the community. It's important for us to get to know members,
Yeah.
to let us learn what people are thinking, what they're bringing to the communities in which they live, what their feelings are, who they're drawing to them. And you've certainly provided a rich exploration of your shamanic world in Asheville, your teachings, and who you rely on and who you inspire. So I want to thank you, Roger. Uh,
Well, thank you, Wake. It's been
I want to,
fun.
I told you it'd be fun.
All right, well, we did it then.
Yeah.
Yay.
Okay. Well, I do want to say thank you. Thank you for all those who were watching, for joining us, for me to get to know Roger, for us all to hear about Roger Wheelock and his stories and his calling. This is how we get to know one another, to share members of our global shamanic community with the world, deepen our relationships, and somehow strengthen our own calling to know that each one of us are out there and that we're all connected. Roger, in particular, I really appreciate your personal stories and your highlighting of enriching the voice, listening to everyone's voice, calling together voices, enhancing the imagination. I hadn't really thought of shamanism in those terms, and that deepens my appreciation of the possibilities of us getting together. And then, thirdly, the connection and the community itself, the growing shamanic communities, which we're all crafting and holding together in the world. So, Roger, any final thoughts, any last words at the moment?
No, I just encourage you all to get out there and do the magic work and provide good medicine to the people. That's my hope for all of this in the days to come. Thank you.
Roger, and for those of you who are watching, please visit shamansdirectory.com, our YouTube channel, the Instagram, where we show you uh, replays of our live events, the Cosmic Fire Summit, selected offerings, and where we can meet one another and find out more about our members as we have with Roger today. And thank you so much for this opportunity. I will be looking forward to seeing you again. We're in very great appreciation of you, Roger, and we thank you for everyone's participation. We'll see you around the fire. Thank you.